Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and it feels like a long time since I've said that. It feels like ages since I've just sat down, done a classic styled video. I've spoke from me to you across the camera. It's nice to be back, and we've got a lot to catch up on. We tried last night going through a majority of topics in our live stream, but today we're going to sit down and we're going to do, we do this every year, the classic, the regular squad depth rundown, transfer window review. It's time to analyse and give our final verdict on the transfer window that just passed here at Celtic Football Club with a very hectic deadline day which I missed. So strap yourselves in, take a seat and enjoy the video. Let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated if you go down below. Both those buttons are there. It's absolutely free. Thank you for 46,000 subscribers, and thank you so far to the reception towards our Ryan 118 channel membership service. Of course, if you want to become a member, you can go down below and press the join button, or look in the top line of the description and find details on how to join there. We've had a fantastic uptake of membership so far, and I'm looking forward to starting that exclusive content over there. It sounds like an OnlyFans when I word it like that. It's not an OnlyFans. I swear, it's not. Anyway, you can join if you like, but let's get into today's video. So, transfer deadline day. It was absolutely manic at Celtic Football Club, and I felt kind of guilty being away and not being able to cover it in the full depth that I would usually do. I would usually have my late night live stream, would usually talk about things as it happens, but I was away, I was on my holidays, and now that I'm back I have so much to catch up on. But it was an incredibly busy transfer window for Celtic, both incomings and outgoings. We had a lot to do, and I think that we can end the window relatively pleased with what's happened. Now, of course, everyone's going to be subject to their own opinions. Some people will be incredibly happy with the window that's just passed. Some people maybe not as happy. But today I'm going to sit down and give my full verdict and analysis of the transfer window. I'm going to look at what Celtic managed to do and complete in their transfer window compared to what my early expectations were back at the start in May. So yeah, we're going to do the full thing, the whole shebang today in this video, and see how the club got on, and we can have a conversation about it in the comments section as well. So let's have a look at what the manager said about the window first, shall we? Brendan Rodgers never kept it secret how his expectations were so high for this transfer window, that he needed players to do what he was brought in to do. And remember, this is the same manager, this is the same Brendan Rodgers who walked away from Celtic back in 2019 after being let down on false promises from the Celtic board, and there was no way that they could have let that happen again. But as the window went on, it was looking increasingly likely that the Celtic board were going to do that again. Not only did we lose our best player in Matt O'Reilly, but we struggled to really replace him and confidently replace him, and as the weeks and days went on, we're starting to worry if we'd actually ever do so. So yeah, Brendan Rodgers has ended the window a happy lad. This is what he said to BBC Radio Scotland. He said, "The club have done great in terms of ins and outs. We've had to move people, so there's been a lot of work going on over a number of months. If you look at our squad and the bench that we'd featured in so many games, we needed to strengthen it, and I feel as though we've done that. There's a big applause to the club for getting the work done, and we've brought in some fantastic players who can help us over the course of the season. They're still finding out how we work and the system and all the intricacies. I'm very happy to be bringing in the depth to the squad. It's some fantastic players we've brought in, and they're going to really, really help us." So Brendan Rodgers seems happy with how the window has ended, and I think most people are happy with how the window ended after that busy deadline day. It could have went very differently, but listen, we got the three key players that we needed in. We brought in Alex Valley as well a couple of days prior in that left back area, which we knew we needed depth in. So I think in general the window went well. And listen, we've not even spoke about this. Celtic shattered their transfer record. £11 million was spent on a single player. So if you told me all of this at the start of the window, I don't know if I would have believed you straight away. But Brendan Rodgers seems happy, which means Ryan 118, Ryan Fitzsimons, he's happy. before we go into the full squad depth and transfer analytics, all that nonsense, I've got to talk about the 3 players that did come in on deadline day, because I've not had a lot of time or opportunity yet to talk about them. We'll start with Arne Engels, the new £11 million record signing. He comes in as the Matt O'Reilly replacement. We got a glimpse of him at the weekend against Rangers, but I think the best is yet to come, obviously. Just a cameo for him in the derby. The expectations are going to be high on Arne Engels. He is an expensive player, one that Celtic will be hoping for the best from, and for hoping to make triple the money on in a few years to come. But he looked like a great player at Augsburg. I think he comes in with a lot of potential. I look forward to seeing him start games for the club. And he's a Belgium international. And it's not, Belgium are one of the top 10 FIFA ranked sides. It's not very often Celtic have players from top 10 FIFA ranked nations. The last Belgium international we had was Dedrick Boyata, of course. But having someone like Arne Engels, I think the ceiling's very high, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he provides. Austin Trusty, he arrived for a fee of around £6 million. I've been very vocal on him and how excited I am to see him as well, so I'm glad that we got that one over the line. Hopefully he can challenge for that starting spot alongside fellow countryman Cameron Carter-Vickers soon. Of course, we didn't get to see any of him against Rangers at the weekend, but yeah, patience will have to do with that one. And listen, I think he'll be a lot better here than what he was at Sheffield United. A lot of room to grow in confidence at Celtic, rather being on the back foot with Sheffield United in the Premier League all season. So I think this will turn out to be a smart piece of business from Celtic. And finally, the one that I've spoke about the least on this channel, Luke McCowan, who a couple of days before I left to go to Berlin, I was saying that I just don't see him joining Celtic. I didn't think that he would end up a Celtic player in the window, but on deadline day it happened. He signed for the club, his boyhood club, and he comes in with a lot of fanfare, I would say. I think we're all really excited to see what Luke McCowan could bring. Look, there's no denying that there is probably somewhat of a downgrade there from the original Matthias Bogus deal, who was a £7-8 million player, to then go and spend just over £1 million on Luke McCowan. But I think that this is a smart signing. We needed Scottish players for the quota. I think bringing in fans of the club is smart sometimes. I don't think, there should never be that aspect of, if you're a Celtic fan, then you should sign for the club. I don't think that's how you should judge your signings. But, there's not a great amount of people at the club at the minute who just get it to be a Celtic fan. So that's always an important aspect of building a team. And he's just a talented lad. He's a talented player. So I think his minutes might be sporadic throughout the course of the season, but I'm buzzing for him, buzzing for his family. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he could bring. By no means do I think we should look at him as a downgrade. I think we should just wish him the best and hope for the best when he plays. So yeah, a surprise one for me, one that I didn't think would end up at Celtic, but nonetheless, it is here. So the transfer window spending activity went a little bit like this. A net profit, actually, from Celtic of around £6.5 million. We brought in 8 players for a minimum fee of £30.3 million. The reason I put minimum in there is due to clauses in deals such as sell-ons that will be involved in future dates. Adam Ida, whose deal can rise from £8.5 to £9.5 million. Right now, the minimum spend, the amount of money we spent in that window, is £30.3 million. We got rid of 17 players. I'm only counting players who were considered first team players here, so not some of the B team lads whose contracts ran out. 17 players out of the club, some on loan, some on permanent transfers. Joe Hart, for example, who retired. We received £36.8 million at a minimum. Once again, that's because we're considering Matt O'Reilly's a £26 million departure here and not a £30 million departure here. So minimums make it a £6.5 million positive net spend, which means the club, business-wise, will be very, very happy. We've made profit in the window. And it's nuts because only spending £30.3 million at a minimum means that we've only just spent the Matt O'Reilly money, just over it. So, still millions in the bank at Celtic to do even more in January, next summer. I never want to hear anything from the club saying that we can't afford certain players. We're only scratching the surface of what we could spend here. But I think for those 8 players for that amount of money, pretty happy with that. Listen, there's no point in spending willy-nilly. I think the biggest complaint is we probably didn't get business done earlier, and maybe things wouldn't have got as tentative towards the end. So how does it leave the squad looking then? How did we do in terms of buffing out the squad and cutting the dead wood at the same time? Well, this was the squad the last time we done one of these squad depth videos. So this was running around about the time where Kasper Schmeichel had signed, Vinyamis Salo had signed, and Bernardo was effectively through the door. We were still waiting on the arrival of Adam Ida, and there were still players at the club such as Mikey Johnston, such as Kwon, Tomoki Iwata, who ended up leaving on deadline day. This was how the squad was looking the last time we done one of these videos, and when we saw that, we knew there was still depth required in specific areas, and we knew there was players that just shouldn't be here. Fast forward to how it stands right now, and this is how the squad is looking heading into the 2024-25 campaign, alongside the Champions League registration requirements. We've done a good job when you consider who was here at the end of last season after the Scottish Cup final, when we had Haksabanovic here, when we had Kwon here, when we had all these players, James McCarthy was still here, all these players we had to cut from the squad, and we also had to improve. This is how it's looking now, and it's looking pretty decent. I think that there's one area that we could have done a bit more in, but we'll come to that in a moment. But generally looking quite good. 26 out of 25 registered players this would bring us to. You will notice that Mitchell Frame is part of my registration here. It's because we need to bring in one more locally trained player. I'm assuming it will be Frame because he was in the squad last year, which means someone will have to be dropped. I assume it will be Mike Nawrowski or maybe even Yang. Chance it could be Odin Thiago Holm as well. One player will have to be dropped that isn't a locally trained player, but generally this is how the squad is looking heading in to the Champions League. So we've done well, we've got depth in every area of the squad, and I'm feeling pretty good heading into the Champions League campaign. It's funny because remember this video I done, I think it was a few days after the Scottish Cup final, and this is how I ranked the Celtic squad heading into 2024-25. This was everybody who was here on the 26th of May following the Scottish Cup final. And me and Brendan seemed to vibe, seemed to get along a little bit. This is who I said should have stayed, who should have went, who we should have maybe loaned out, punted. And then me and Brendan, look at that, switch it over. I'm not far off at all. There was only 4 players that seemed to me and Brendan disagreed with here on the entire list. The 4 standouts being Tomoki Iwata, who I thought should have stayed as a squad player. He ended up moving on, but it makes sense, so I wouldn't complain. Thiago Holm, I thought we should have loaned out. He's ended up staying, so kind of a swap there with Iwata in a sense that one of them is here and one of them's not. Stephen Welsh, who I thought we should have got rid of, but clearly had to stay due to Champions League registrations. But there was times in the window it looked as though he was going to go. And Yang, who I thought we should have got rid of as well, and he's ended up staying. So me and Brendan very, very similar in our assessments of the squad. So, you know, in terms of judging how I think the Celtic have dealt with getting rid of that dead wood, I'm delighted because basically everything that I thought should have happened has essentially happened. And that applies to the transfer shopping list as well. Me and my expectations weren't a million miles off what the club actually ended up doing in the transfer window. Here was my shopping list. I had 2 goalkeepers, a left-sided centre-half, a left-back, O'Reilly replacement, Bernardo, a right-winger, and Adam Ida. And if you look at the ticks and the crosses, there's only one thing that they've missed out there, and that is a quality right winger, which the blow of that has been softened with how good James Forrest has been in recent times and how well Nicholas Kuhn has started the season. I still think we could be doing with another quality winger that could maybe cover both sides of the park. But in general, when you look at that list and you look at the ticks compared to the crosses, the board have went out and really done what I think they should have done. So I can't end this transfer window feeling disheartened too much. If anything, I'm actually really, really happy with the way it's ended up. A winger would have been a lovely bonus, but they've done everything I think that was the necessities. And that's the main thing. I know the verdict is still going to be out and the jury will make their decision if Alex Baye, for example, is going to be a quality left back. We don't know that yet. We haven't seen him play, but we got a left back and Greg Taylor started the season really, really well. So, yeah, it's mad. The board have actually you know, I hold back in my praise of the board because I'm anything but a bootlicker, and I still think the board deserve a lot of criticism for how the window was handled, and how a lot of things are handled at Celtic Football Club, quite frankly. But I can't complain too much about the transfer window. They set out to improve the team, and I think they have improved the team. It was always going to be difficult when you were losing the likes of Matt O'Reilly, but they've signed well. So, and we broke our transfer record in replacing Matt O'Reilly. So there is a lot of positives to take from it. Now it's about replicating that in future windows. In January, if we need to, spend. Next summer, when we need to cut dead wood again and we need to improve, do it. Let this be the model moving forward. Don't stand still. Don't let one window define the next 5 years at Celtic. Build from that. Let it be the model. And let Brendan Rodgers build a superpower of a team. So there you go. That's my evaluation of the squad and the transfer window in general. I would give this window an 8 out of 10. I would say the 2 points that I'm taking away from it. And by the way, when I say 8 out of 10, that's at this point in time, viewing it at this moment in time. Listen, for all I know, it could be like 2020 all over again, and all these great signings on paper could turn out to be gash. I don't know, but I'm happy with how we've done it. I think that Brendan Rodgers will get the best out of these players. They all seem to be Rodgers signings, which is even more important. But I give it an 8 out of 10. I take away the 2 points for maybe the length of time that it took to get some of these signings done, and the fact that we didn't bring in a winger. Apart from that, I'm pretty pleased with how it went, and pleasantly surprised at the Celtic board for spending 30 million plus. But we're in a great place, a great place, which is great. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about the window in the comments below, and yeah, I'll see you all next time. Shout out to the channel members. Shout out to everybody who has joined the 118 Club or the Thunder Club thus far. Thank you for your continued support here on Ryan 118, and enjoy your moment of glory here on screen.